Hi, I'm Imo Kitsune, mom, small business owner, and I'm going to talk about 10 things artists can do that AI never will. During this video, I'm going to be working on some block prints for a convention that I had coming up, and it's pretty suiting for this because that's one thing AI can't do, which is traditional art, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. So I'm going to put my chips on the table, and I'm going to confidently call out 10 things only a human artist can do that generative AI in its current form will never improve on based on how it currently works, as well as give examples. And if any AI bros want to challenge my assumptions, then go right ahead.
Fight me!
Unfortunately, generative AI images are here to stay, and some of us will have to adapt to, I guess, compete. So I highly recommend incorporating any of these 10 things into your work, and I'm going to give a bonus 11th thing at the end. So remember back in the day when Amazon and a bunch of companies were talking about how self-checkout was going to replace workers? I remember arguing with people online who were like, LOL, y'all are fighting for minimum wage when all your jobs are going to be taken over by robots. Yeah, it turns out self-checkout was way more of a pain in the ass for companies and actually cost them way more money, to the fact that some of them actually started getting rid of some of their self-checkout. Obviously, self-checkouts are pretty much everywhere, but it has no way taken over in the way that especially Amazon was hyping up things to be, you know? So I kind of see AI art in the same vein, where I think that unfortunately it will replace some things, but I don't think it's going to be a complete takeover. So that's all investor talk to hype up AI to bump up the values of companies. I'm personally not buying it. So AI art has infested the internet and has caused massive layoffs as companies try their best to replace artists. And the sad part is this is discouraging baby artists and new artists. So to counter that, I'm here to offer a positive perspective by demonstrating the things that only human artists can do that AI can't. Okay, I admit I was at the devil's sacrament. However, it's because I'm morbidly curious about how this technology works, and it's how I'm able to confidently make this video because I've been at ground zero, or in the lion's den, if you will, and I have seen these AI bros in the Discord servers and in forums really struggle to get generative AI to do what they want it to do, all while going and commenting on YouTube videos being like, oh, it's gonna replace artists, you guys are cooked now. That's not true. Like, if you're actually in that space, it's it is not as hyped up as it is to be. Although I will say, don't be like me. If you don't need to use or even mess around with generative AI if you don't have to. It is horrible for the environment. It is stolen artwork. I don't even support the artists who like to incorporate it in their work and paint over it. That's just really in poor taste, in my opinion. But I'm just being honest and blunt here and just explaining where I'm coming from for this. Oh, and obviously I don't use it in my own work. I'm pretty much just morbidly curious, and so I try to test out to see what it can do, essentially. But I digress. So, with that out of the way, let's start with the list. So the first one is unique art styles not yet created. For AI to function, it needs to train from an obscene amount of data. If there aren't enough examples of an artist's style out there, AI can't copy it without any kind of meaningful success. Yes, you can feed it an artist's style, but it is still so limited in what it can spit out in terms of poses, for example. While some models are expanding outside of the oddly smoothly shaded anime characters and smoothly shaded semi-realism, it is very limited in what it can regurgitate. So embrace what makes your art yours. Even if it's things that you perceive as flaws, it's what makes your art style unique. So as example, your color palettes. I know some artists have very specific color palettes they love to use with their characters and their environment. Another example, like I mentioned, is the imperfections in your art style. Maybe you draw eyes kind of high up on the face, or maybe the limbs are kind of long. Having what you might consider as imperfections in your style is also what makes your art unique. I mean, look at Eiichiro Oda and Clamp. The flaws AI have are just not endearing and are often just straight up bizarre and unsettling. So embrace what makes your style uniquely yours, including what you would consider imperfect quirks. So number 2, this is actually 2 things, and that is characters interacting together and looking at specific things in a scene. So AI tends to make characters posing next to each other, but AI really struggles in having characters physically interact in a way that tells a story, right? Oftentimes when generating an image, so let's say you want to generate like two characters dancing, it will generate the exact same pose, the exact same scene, because again, there's not enough training data for there to actually have any meaningful variety. And also AI cannot figure out how to connect the limbs together when they're intersecting and overlapping. I think the technology would get slightly better on this, but in its current form, I don't see it happening in a way that's not, gonna look weird, right? That is why most AI images are portraits with the character staring directly into your souls. If they do feature multiple characters, they're usually posed next to each other in a very awkward, stiff way, and they're not really looking at anything that tells a story. And also, it takes a lot of trial and error and prompting to even get a group AI picture to be spat out that's not like just completely awful, right? Humans will always be able to make illustrations that tell a story much better than AI can, and I am very confident in that. Number 3, perspective. There are infinite numbers of ways to draw an environment. AI does not know how things connect properly, and it completely loses focus if any part of a background is blocked by the foreground object. In fact, AI doesn't know anything at all. It's only making guesses, like I said, to how an image should be filled out based on what it assumes is there, right? And I'm going off of how the technology works currently. The AI does not think in 3-dimensional spaces. It is just almost like a scanner and filling out things slowly, right? It has no concept of what is going on within the image, right? The best it can do is incredibly simple 1 or 2 point perspective when it comes to generating backgrounds, especially like outdoor backgrounds, so buildings, interiors of rooms. I am so sick of these creepy symmetrical AI interior spaces. Like, look at this. Look, I don't like drawing backgrounds either, but this is not it, right? And I think like us artists, like, we can use this to our advantage with our art. Again, I know backgrounds are such a pain in the butt, but AI just cannot put a character in a background or a scene with any kind of complex perspective. It can only do very simple perspective because that's what the majority of training data is, which I think ironically, the lack of training data for more complex perspective is because us artists don't really do a lot of complex perspective to begin with. But I digress. You know what? Now's the time to use that to our advantage. Number 4, jewelry and unique details. Any specific details on a character are beyond the scope of what AI can do. Like, look at the AI-generated adoptables on DeviantArt and you'll just see blobby, nonsensical accessories and the same anime hairstyles. I don't see improvements in this area with how, again, the AI generates its images because there isn't enough training data to properly render these details in any kind of meaningful way. And I'm confident that they'll never be, especially with jewelry and unique details. Like, a lot of that stuff is very unique to the artist in terms of intricate shapes and designs, right? It could maybe ape some pretty basic motifs, but I mean, look at this. What is this? To the artists out there who have OCs with a lot of accessories and crazy hairstyles and wild dye jobs in their hair, I promise you're not cringe. Okay, I might be biased here, but just ignore me for a minute here. Go off with your overly detailed characters, but at least you're actually drawing in all of the piercings, the jewelry, the tattoos, and all of those have a story to the character. AI just can't do that. It's just blobs. And even if it does get better and they can actually figure out how to do a piece of jewelry that's not blobby, it's not going to know where to put it, and it's going to have very limited shapes to actually draw from, right?
What's 9 plus 10?
21.
You stupid.
Number 5, compete in value with human-created art. So AI generative images are already quickly garnering a reputation of being cheap wherever it shows up. The value of one's art goes beyond just how nicely it is rendered, but also the story of the human behind it and what drove them to create that piece. Our experiences as creators are always going to have a profound impact on what and how we create, and also how we connect to the people who enjoy our art. Yes, there will be some people who don't care about that sort of stuff. In the same way people are fine buying mass-produced prints for like $5 at Walmart than directly from an artist at like hundreds of dollars. But my point still stands. The only time that AI generative images can pretend to have the same value as human art is when the fact that it was AI is hidden. I think it's funny how AI bros are very keen on convincing us that AI can replace us, but they also go to very great lengths to not reveal to the public when something is AI generated. I wonder why. Is it because as soon as someone knows something was created with a bot, not human, its value just... Oh, and another thing too. You don't need to chase after the people and companies who want cheap AI generative images. They were never going to value your art or spend money on your art in a meaningful way. Like these are typically the types of clients who complain about art prices. They always try to get artists to undercharge. Those are not good clients. Those are not good people. They do not value you. So honestly, I do not miss the people who are embracing generative images. Whatever. We don't need them, right? There are enough people, I personally believe, out there that are there for the human behind the art. So regardless of your skill levels, even if generative images can spit out something that looks super fancy, its value is always going to be less than yours. So number 6, hands interacting with objects. Now, I didn't just say hands because admittedly, AI is getting better at it. But the only hands it can spit out competently are almost always never interacting with anything. So for example, a character drinking from a cup, eating food with their hands, cutting a piece of fruit with a knife. Oh god, try to get AI to generate like any kind of human character using some kind of intricate tool. It's just not happening, and I don't think it's ever gonna get better in my opinion. And to add on to this, hand gestures are also nearly impossible without needing to be touched up by a human artist. So like pointing, thumbs up, rock on, live long and prosper. So artists, I hate to say this, but it's time to practice your hands and make them touch something. A little bit weird to say it like that, but pretty much hands interacting with things. Like, I do not foresee generative images getting better at that. I think it will get better at very specific hand poses, and then that is it. And it's going to regurgitate like the same couple of hand poses that it's perfected, and that is going to be it. Number 7, traditional art, which is what I'm working on right now. This one seems obvious, but AI can only work within the confines of digital images. If you are an artist who specializes in physical art, no matter what kind, those cannot be replicated by a computer, and there will always be a market for physical, one-of-a-kind art. In fact, the convention I went to, I sold these original block prints, and they did very well. Additionally, AI has a hard time replicating the look of most conventional art mediums. There's a lot of training data for oil paintings and watercolor, and yes, you can run an existing image through a filter to convert it to mimic other types of mediums like pencil, I guess. And also, AI struggles with mixed media as well. So it's not as common, but artists who use a combination of paints and charcoals. I haven't seen generative images do that because it wouldn't know where to change the textures of the art piece, right? Personally, for me, like, I've been so sick of just being online, and I just need a break from digital art sometimes as much as I like it. So I've been returning to just doing hands-on traditional art, and I'd highly encourage artists to maybe take a break from digital art as well if that's your main thing, and just do something with your hands, especially like sketchbooks. There's so many amazing YouTube sketchbook tours. I'm gonna recommend some at the end of this video here. It's just really good for break, and that's just something that generative art cannot do, and it cannot even replicate the look and feel of most types of traditional art properly. Number 8, clutter. So any environment that contains a lot of items or objects, it is impossible for generative AI to produce convincingly without messing up and turning things once again into blobs, because the generative images cannot think in 3D. It only just, like I said, just kind of prints out everything in 2D and guesses what comes next. AI often confuses when items and objects intersect with each other, and it just can't put things together. A lot of times, the environments that generative images can make are very simple and clean, generic environments. But to have an environment that feels lived in by humans, only a human can properly illustrate that, right? So let's say, for example, it is literally impossible to have generative AI render a messy bedroom, like an actual messy bedroom, like clothes on the floor, papers on the floor, like fast food that might be sitting on the desk. It just doesn't know. It's just garbage. And again, only humans can know how to do that properly because we understand and know when a space is lived in, where the clutter is going to be, where the paper is going to be, where the clothes are going to be, where the food is going to be, where anything is going to be. Generative AI is never going to do that because there's not going to be enough training data to do that. And I bet that if any AI bro is going to try, they're going to have to generate stuff over and over and over and over again, and then collage something together and then trick the rest of us thinking, look, it totally can do this. No, it can't. It cannot do clutter. And I know this isn't a very popular thing that a lot of artists, especially anime artists, like to do. I'm calling you guys out here, but you need to consider, once again, getting good on the backgrounds, adding in some clutter, adding in some human elements to make your space that your character's in lived in. Number 9, humanoid fantastical creatures. So I know that there are some AI models that can maybe do some semi-competent like lamias or like dragon people, I suppose. And there's even some like furry AI models, I guess. But the thing is that like the AI is really restrictive to pretty much whatever is mainstream and they have a lot of training data from. It cannot spit out a wholly unique humanoid creature that makes sense. And honestly, the only ones that are able to spit out competent, like I guess mainstream ones, like I mentioned, like, you know, like snake people or dragon people, are very, very specific models trained on very specific art styles. A lot of the like mainstream ones, like I've seen some like 3D AI game models try to come up with like a centaur, and it's just an absolute nightmare. So it takes so much effort to even make some of the more mainstream humanoid fantasy monsters. And again, like I said, something that generative image art is just never going to do is it's just not going to be able to come up with a fantastical humanoid creature that is wholly unique. It does not know to do it because there's no training data for that, because the possibilities for creating original like just creatures and beings is wholly human, right? So that is something that I don't think it's ever going to be able to do, because it can't guess where to fix certain appendages. If you're someone who likes to make fantastical like creatures or even humanoid characters that just have something different about them, whether it's their ears or their skin color or their hair, that is wholly and uniquely human, and generative AI is just not going to be able to do that. Number 10, comics. Comics can't ever be replicated by a computer, as the AI cannot stay on model between pictures, nor can it understand how to frame a shot as to convey a story. And if you're thinking, well, you can generate each panel at a time, again, it has a very hard time staying on model. It's getting better, but it's just not there. And comics aren't just stitching together pieces of illustrations. You have to know how to direct and frame your shots like a movie director for a comic. And with AI, there's many limitations. And I have seen comics made with AI images, and it's just the most... I could be biased here, someone who loves comics, but it's so uncanny valley. I don't think the technology is anywhere close to creating a competent comic. And in order for someone to do so, they would have to use multiple things. They would have to use ChatGPT. They'd have to use a generative image thing. They would have to do a lot of edits and a lot of just generating stuff over and over again, right? And that's the thing that a lot of these AI people don't tell you. And I think this is a slight misconception that bothers me, because it gives the AI people the upper hand, because it kind of shows just a little bit of ignorance with how it works. And that is, you don't just type in a prompt and it spits out a perfect image, right? I know people say that, they're like, oh, you just spit out a perfect image, blah, blah, blah. That's like half true, but not entirely, right? There's a reason why a lot of these generative image stuff give you a ton of credits, because they know you're not going to be able to get what you want on the first, second, or even the 10th try. You have to generate it over and over and over and over again. and there's lots of different parameters and sliders and numbers to kind of tell the AI how to essentially guess at the next picture to make it better, right? So it's not that you just type in a prompt and you get perfect images. A lot of the very convincing generative AI that tends to trick even the most seasoned artists, those, okay, I also, because I know what you're thinking, I'm not saying that like, oh my god, like AI takes a lot of work like human artists. It does not, obviously, because here's the thing. Human artists, it's not just the time it took for you to draw an image in the moment. It was the years and years and years of study and practice and drawing thousands upon thousands of not good images to get to the point of where you are. But the reason why it bothers me when people say that it's just a prompt and perfect images, it gives the AI tech bros an upper hand, and it's like, oh, well, I actually spent like 3 hours generating a bazillion prompts to get this, so I'm in the right because these people are ignorant. So that's a whole side tangent there, but I'm just letting you guys know that for any of the things that I mentioned in this list, and if people are going to try to recreate it, it's going to take a lot of effort. And it's going to even probably take a human touch to, again, trick people, because I've seen so much generative AI images that need a human touch up to hide some of the fuck ups, you know? So, oh wait, there's one more thing. The bonus 11th one that I don't think that generative images will ever do. And that is adult art. So AI can do some pretty basic, let's say, poses, because this is the internet, and we all know there's a lot of, let's say, training data for that. But for people who want something spicier, AI has no idea what the hell it's doing. I already explained it can't put two humans interacting together normally without them blending and melting into each other. So it's never going to be able to handle more, let's say, unique tastes in adult content. It's going to just regurgitate like the same poses that are very common and basic. So you know what? If you are an adult artist, probably definitely safe for generative AI. So make no mistake, I think AI has and will continue to replace artists in certain areas, but I made this video because there's so much doom and gloom on the internet. It is not what's being hyped up, in my opinion. And is it improving? Kind of, but there is just so many things that it's struggling. Like they are struggling to find more training data. They are struggling to find more obscene amounts of energy for the AI computations. AI is scraping and training itself on other AI images and poisoning their own data sets. And the list goes on and on. My name is Emo Kitsune, and I'm telling everyone to stop being so doom and gloom about AI, right? It's not perfect, it's not rosy, but it's not as bad as I think a lot of people are talking about on YouTube. Again, they have to hype up AI. When I say they, you know, like the AI bros, to keep the investor money flowing and the stock values high for all of these tech companies. Don't fall for it. This is the self-checkout all over again, right? This is Amazon saying that they're gonna have a no-cashier supermarket, and it turns out that wasn't the case. They had humans monitoring and essentially working off-site. Okay, these companies are lying. They are just lying and hyping up stuff. And like I said, I am putting my chips on the table, and I do think that once the generative images, I think they've even already hit their point, people are gonna get tired of it. There's a certain art style associated with it, which is too bad, because like it pains me when people are like, oh, this looks like AI art. You do know that AI art was trained from a human artist. That AI art is a real person's art style that was stolen and now transformed into something that is like scorned. And that is just so tragic. People, including artists, are forgetting that that is an actual human art style. So with that being said, I hope that maybe I have made things a little bit less doom and gloom. To all the artists that are feeling discouraged about the AI situation and feel like nothing they draw matters, I just have to say,
No.
Get off that dirty ass floor.
and keep drawing, okay? But yeah, tell me what you think. Do you think AI can generate the things I mentioned competently, or maybe I pointed out some things that you hadn't considered? Thank you for checking out my video. Okay, well, since you're still here, a mini studio vlog because I was showing myself working on block prints. This is my first time getting back into block prints in like a long time, and it was a lot of fun. It was very messy, but it was a lot of fun. I think carving out the blocks was just so therapeutic, and it was just so satisfying, and I love a little bit of chaos when I make traditional art, so I like not knowing exactly how each print is going to come out, and so that was a lot of fun. And I made original block prints on some paper. I also got some blank craft notebooks, and I sold those as well. A couple people bought those at the convention, so that was nice. Obviously, it's something that can't be mass produced, but I mean, that's not the point. It's like I kind of do a couple of prints and that's it. And it was a lot of fun. Something else I like about, at least with the specific type of, is that it's thick enough that I can actually carve on both sides, so I can have two different types of art using one linoleum block, which is really convenient for me because I'm trying to save as much money as possible, and I love that I can double up on that. Okay, enough yapping. Thank you so much for checking out my video, and I will see you in the next one.